The ship was dying. Commander Thelia stood in the center of her broken bridge and watched. Sparks fall from the ceiling like orange rain. The Gentle Dawn had been a beautiful ship once. Its walls were made of crystal that sang when light passed through them. Its engines hummed soft melodies that reminded the Villani crew of home dawn. Now those walls were cracked. The engines were silent, and 17 of her people were missing, taken by the raiders who had torn through their ship like wolves through paper. Thelia was a Villani, a species of bird-like beings with hollow bones and feathers that glowed faintly in the dark. Her people were scientists and artists. They built telescopes to watch distant stars. They wrote poems about the mathematics of the universe. They had never been warriors. The Croatian pirates had known this. That was why they attacked. "Commander," said her navigator, a young male named Peller, whose feathers had gone pale with fear. "Life support is failing in sections 4 through 9. We have maybe 6 hours." Thelia closed her large, dark eyes. 6 hours. Not enough time for the Galactic fleet to reach them. Not enough time for anyone to save them. But she had to try. "Send the distress signal," she said. "Use the allied species frequency. Send it to everyone." Peller's thin fingers moved across the damaged console. The signal went out into the black void of space, crying for help in every direction. It was a small hope. They were in the outer rim, far from the safe center of the galaxy, far from anyone who might care about a crippled research vessel. The signal flew through space at the speed of light. It passed dead moons and empty asteroid fields. It traveled through dust clouds where stars were being born. And then, by pure accident, it reached a ship that was never supposed to receive it. The UESS Indomitable was not a pretty ship. It was not elegant or graceful. It looked like someone had taken a block of dark metal and added weapons to every surface. It had been built by humans, and humans did not build things to be beautiful. They built things to survive. Lieutenant Una Park sat at her station on the bridge, watching her screens with tired eyes. They had been in deep space for 8 months now, exploring regions of the galaxy that no human had ever seen. It was exciting work, but also lonely. She missed Earth. She missed rain and trees and the smell of her grandmother's kitchen. Then her console beeped. Una sat up straight. She ran the signal through her translator and felt her heart beat faster as she read the words. "Captain," she said, "we have a distress call." Captain Do-Young Kang turned in his command chair. He was a tall man with a strong jaw and old burn scars that ran from his ear to his collar. Those scars came from a fire on his first ship, 15 years ago. He had carried 3 crewmates out of the flames before the medical team pulled him away. He still walked with a slight limp from that day. "What kind of distress call?" he asked. "A research vessel. Villani. They were attacked by raiders. They have wounded and missing crew." Una paused. "Sir, they're only 2 hours away at maximum speed." Kang stood up and walked to her station. He read the message himself, his dark eyes moving quickly over the text. The Villani were not allies of Earth. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 30 years, and they had not made many friends yet. Most species looked at humans with fear or disgust, but that did not matter to Kang. "Hana," he said, turning to his chief engineer. "Can we make 2 hours?" Hanashin looked up from her console. She was a small woman with gray streaks in her black hair and grease stains on her uniform. She had kept this ship running through solar storms, asteroid impacts, and one very unfortunate encounter with a space creature that tried to eat their hull. "We can make it," she said. "But Captain, this ship is not built for combat. We are explorers." "We have weapons," said Taiho Lim from the tactical station. He was young, maybe 25, with eager eyes and a smile that made him look even younger. "I have been keeping our railguns warm for months. They work perfectly." Kang looked around his bridge. He saw Yuna with her careful eyes. He saw Hannah with her worried frown. He saw Taiho with his dangerous smile. He saw the rest of his crew, all watching him, waiting. They were not soldiers. They were scientists and engineers and pilots. They had families waiting for them back on Earth. They had every reason to ignore this signal and continue their mission. But they were also human. Set a course, Kang said. Maximum speed. And someone wake up Sergeant Cho. Tell her Marines to suit up. The Indomitable turned toward the distress signal. Its engines roared to life with a sound like thunder. Deep in the ship, Sergeant Yoonji Cho opened her eyes in her bunk and smiled. She had been waiting for something to do far away. Commander Thelia watched her broken screens and prayed for rescue. She did not know that help was coming. She did not know that the ones coming to save her were the creatures her people called Deathworlders. She would learn soon enough. The Vellani saw the human ship arrive, and they thought death had come for them. Commander Thelia stood at the observation window of her dying vessel. Her crew gathered behind her, their feathers pressed flat against their bodies in fear. They had sent the distress call, hoping for rescue. They had expected the Galactic peacekeeping fleet, with their smooth white ships and their calm voices. Instead, something else came out of hyperspace. The human ship appeared like a wound in reality. One moment there was empty space. The next moment there was darkness and metal and weapons. The Indomitable did not slide gracefully into normal space. It crashed through like a fist through a window. "What is that?" whispered Peller. Thelia could not answer. She had never seen anything like this ship. Vellani vessels were made of crystal and light. Galactic fleet ships were elegant curves of white metal. Even the Crocian raider ships had a certain savage beauty to them. This ship was ugly. This ship was brutal. This ship looked like it had been built by creatures who expected the universe to try to kill them, and who had decided to kill it first. The communication system crackled. A voice came through, speaking their language through a translator. "Allied vessel, this is the UESS Indomitable. We received your distress signal. Hold tight. We are coming to help." The voice was warm, almost gentle, but Thelia felt no comfort from it. She had studied the reports about humans. She knew what they were. They came from a world called Earth, a planet of nightmares. The gravity there was crushing. The atmosphere was filled with oxygen, a gas so dangerous that it corroded metal over time. Water fell from the sky in violent storms. The ground shook and split open. Fire burst from mountains. And through all of this, through millions of years of death and destruction, the humans had survived. They were Deathworlders. Monsters from a monster planet. And now they were here. The Crocian raiders noticed the new arrival. There were 3 pirate ships, each one larger than the Gentle Dawn. They had been circling the crippled Vellani vessel like sharks around wounded prey, waiting for their slave teams to finish loading their cargo. The lead Crocian ship turned toward the Indomitable. Its captain was a massive reptile named Vorsk, with scales the color of dried blood and eyes like yellow fire. He had been raiding ships in this sector for 20 years. He had never lost a battle. He opened a channel to the human ship. "Unknown vessel," Vorsk growled. "You are interfering with Crocian business. Leave now or be destroyed." There was a pause. Then the human captain replied, "This is Captain Doyun Kang of the UES Indomitable. Those people you attacked are under our protection now. Release your prisoners and leave. This is your only warning." Vorsk laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. He looked at his tactical screens and saw that the human ship was smaller than his own. Its design was primitive. It had no energy shields that his sensors could detect. "Foolish creature," he said. "Your species is new to these stars. You do not understand how things work. We are Croatian. We take what we want. And now we will take your ship too. On the bridge of the Indomitable. Captain Kang closed the channel. They are not going to cooperate, he said calmly. No, sir, agreed Yuna. They are not. Kang looked at Taiho. The young weapons officer was already smiling, his hands resting on his console like a musician about to play. Light them up, Kang said. The Indomitable had no energy shields because it did not need them. It had thick armor plates made from materials forged in the heart of dying stars. It had point defense systems that could track and destroy incoming missiles. And it had weapons that the Croatian had never encountered before, railguns. Humans had never developed energy weapons. They had tried, but their scientists had always returned to a simpler idea. Throw something very hard, very fast. A railgun used electromagnetic force to accelerate a metal slug to a fraction of the speed of light. No heat signature. No energy buildup. Just metal moving faster than anything in the universe had a right to move. Taiho fired. The first shot hit the lead Croatian ship before Vorsk even knew he was under attack. The slug punched through his shields like they were not there. It tore through 3 decks of his ship and exited out the other side, leaving a hole the size of a ground vehicle. Vorsk stared at his damage reports. Half his crew was dead. His engines were failing. He could not understand what had happened. Return fire, he screamed. The Croatian ships launched missiles and energy beams at the Indomitable. The point defense systems came alive, filling space with metal rain that shredded the incoming missiles. The energy beams splashed against the armor and did nothing. Taiho fired again. And again. And again. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, 2 Croatian ships were drifting wrecks, leaking air and fire into space. The third ship, Vorsk's flagship, was crippled but still alive. Taiho had been careful with that one. There were prisoners on board. On the Gentle Dawn, Commander Thelia watched this happen. Her crew was silent. Some of them had fallen to the floor, too shocked to stand. They had seen the Croatian, the most feared raiders in the sector, destroyed in minutes. By a single ship. A ship that was smaller than the enemy. A ship crewed by creatures from a death world. What are they? Peller asked in a voice that shook. Thelia did not know. She did not know if they had been saved, or if something worse had come to claim them. Then the human captain's voice came through the speakers again. Allied vessel. This is Captain Kang. The raiders have been neutralized. We are sending a shuttle with medical supplies and a boarding team to recover your captured crew. Please remain calm. You are safe now. Safe. The word seemed strange. How could anyone be safe near creatures like this? But Thelia had no choice. Her ship was dying. Her people needed help. And these humans, these Deathworlders, were the only ones who had answered her call. Thank you, she said into the communicator. Her voice was small. Thank you for coming. There was warmth in the human's reply. That is what we do. The Indomitable moved closer, blocking out the stars. Sergeant Yoonji Cho stood in the airlock of the Indomitable and checked her weapon one last time. Behind her, 11 Marines waited in their combat armor. They were ready. Remember, she said through the squad channel, there are prisoners on that ship. Vellani civilians. They are fragile, so be careful around them. The Croatian are not fragile. Do not be careful around them. Corporal Sun Woo Nam grinned inside his helmet. Understood, Sergeant. Gentle with the birds, hard with the lizards. Exactly. The airlock opened. Space waited for them, cold and empty and dark. The Croatian flagship drifted 100 meters away, fire leaking from the holes in its hull. Most species would have needed a shuttle to cross that distance. The Marines just stepped out and walked. Their magnetic boots locked onto the outer hull of the Indomitable. They moved in formation, 12 figures in black armor walking across the skin of a starship like it was solid ground. The Villani, watching from their damaged vessel, could not believe what they were seeing. Creatures walking in hard vacuum. Creatures moving through space where there was no air, no gravity, no life. Myong-ah. The squad medic carried extra supplies on her back. She was a small woman with steady hands and calm eyes. She had treated wounds on a dozen different worlds. She had saved lives in combat zones and disaster areas. She was not afraid of anything anymore. They reached the Crocian ship and found an emergency hatch. Sunwoo attached a breaching charge while the others took positions around him. "Ready," he said. "Blow it," Yunji ordered. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space. The hatch flew inward, and air rushed out in a white cloud of ice crystals. The Marines moved in before the cloud cleared. Inside, the Crocian were waiting. The first thing Yunji saw was a wall of scales and teeth. Crocian warriors stood in the corridor, armed with energy rifles and vibration blades. They were each 2 meters tall, with claws that could tear through metal and venom glands, in their mouths that could kill most species in minutes. They were also terrified. Yunji could see it in their eyes. They had watched their fleet get destroyed by a single human ship. They had heard stories about Deathworlders, but had never believed them. Now those stories were walking toward them in black armor, and they did not know what to do. "Drop your weapons," Yunji shouted in their language. "Surrender and you will live." One of the Crocian, braver or stupider than the rest, raised his rifle and fired. The energy beam hit Yunji's chest armor. It burned hot, leaving a black scorch mark on the metal. But it did not penetrate. Human armor was built to survive the harsh environments of their death world. A simple energy weapon was not enough to break it. Yunji did not even slow down. She raised her own weapon and fired 3 shots. The brave Crocian fell. The others tried to run. They did not get far. The Marines moved through the ship like ghosts. They were faster than the Crocian expected. They worked together perfectly, covering each other, calling out targets, moving as one unit. When they found resistance, they broke through it. When they found locked doors, they opened them. Nothing stopped them. Sunwoo took a hit during the fighting. A Crocian warrior managed to slash his arm with a poisoned claw before Sunwoo put 3 rounds in its chest. The venom burned through his suit and into his flesh. It was designed to kill most species in seconds. Sunwoo kept fighting. "You are poisoned," Myong said, moving to his side while the others provided cover. "Let me treat you." "Do it while I shoot," Sunwoo replied. His arm was on fire with pain, but his aim stayed steady. "We do not have time to stop." Myong cut open his suit sleeve and injected the antivenom. She applied a pressure bandage and sealed the suit with emergency tape. The whole process took 30 seconds. Sunwoo never stopped firing. A captured Crocian stared at him with wide yellow eyes. "You should be dying," the alien hissed. "That venom kills in moments." Sunwoo looked at his wounded arm. It hurt badly. His vision was getting blurry. But he was still standing. He was still fighting. "We are stubborn about that," he said. They found the prisoners on the lower deck. The Villani were locked in cages meant for animals. 17 of them huddled together, their feathers dull with fear and exhaustion. Some of them had been hurt. All of them were terrified. When the cage doors opened and human Marines stepped through, the Villani screamed. They pressed back against the walls, trying to get away from these creatures in their black armor with weapons in their hands. Unji stopped. She lowered her weapon and held up her empty hands. "It is okay," she said softly. The translator in her helmet carried her voice to them in their own language. "We are not here to hurt you. We are here to take you home." One of the Villani, a young child with silver feathers, stared at her with huge dark eyes. Are you the monsters? The child asked. The Deathworlders? Yunji thought about how to answer. She removed her helmet. Her face was sweating, and her hair was pressed flat. She had a small scar above her eyebrow from a training accident years ago. She looked tired and human and real. Yes, she said honestly. We are from a death world. But we are not monsters. Not today. She knelt down so she was at the child's level. The movement was slow and careful, not threatening. She reached out one gloved hand, palm up, offering without demanding. The child hesitated. Then, slowly, it reached out and touched Yunji's hand. The human's fingers closed gently around the small Vellani hand. Warm. Safe. Come with me, Yunji said. I will carry you. I will keep you safe. The child looked at its parents. They nodded, too tired and scared to speak. Yunji lifted the child carefully, cradling it against her armored chest. The little Vellani weighed almost nothing. Its bones were hollow. Its body was fragile, but in that moment, it was protected by a creature from a nightmare world. And somehow, that made it feel safe. The Marines led the prisoners back through the ship. Sunwoo walked at the rear, his wounded arm hanging at his side, still holding his weapon with his good hand. Myung stayed close to the most injured Vellani, ready to help if anyone fell. They made it back to the airlock. The shuttle from the Indomitable was waiting for them. Yunji carried the child all the way to safety. She never let go. The rescued Vellani sat in the medical bay of the Indomitable, and they did not know what to feel. Commander Thilia watched Dr. Jiwoo An move between the patients with gentle hands. The human woman was checking injuries, cleaning wounds, speaking soft words of comfort. She moved slowly and carefully around the Vellani, aware of how fragile their bodies were. It made no sense to Thilia. These were the same creatures who had destroyed 3 warships in minutes. The same creatures who had walked through space without air. The same creatures who had fought through a ship, full of armed Crocian like they were walking through water. Now they were offering blankets and warm drinks. You are confused, said a voice beside her. Thilia turned. Chief Engineer Hannah Shin stood there, a small human woman with tired eyes and gray in her black hair. She was holding 2 cups of something hot. She offered one to Thilia. It is tea, Hannah explained. From our world. I made sure it is safe for your biology. It will warm you. Thilia took the cup. The heat felt good against her thin fingers. She looked at Hannah and tried to understand. You are Deathworlders, Thilia said. Your planet is a nightmare. Your atmosphere is poison. Your oceans are filled with creatures that kill for pleasure. How can you also be this? She pointed at Jiwoo, who was now singing softly to a frightened Vellani child while she bandaged its wing. Hannah smiled. It was a sad smile, full of knowledge. Sit with me, she said. I will try to explain. They sat on a bench near the observation window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. The broken Crocian ships drifted in the darkness. The gentle dawn was being towed by the Indomitable Mao, safe and protected. You are right that our world is dangerous, Hannah began. Everything you have heard is true. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Predators hunted us. Diseases invaded our bodies. The weather tried to crush us. We should have died out long ago. She took a sip of her tea. But we did not die. Do you know why? Thilia shook her head. Because we helped each other. That is our secret. We are not the fastest animals on our world. We are not the strongest. Our claws are small. Our teeth are weak. Alone, a human is easy prey. Hannah looked out at the stars. But we were never alone. We formed groups, families, tribes. We protected each other. When one of us was hurt, others carried them. When one of us was hungry, Others shared food. We survived because we refused to abandon each other. Thelia thought about this. But that was for your own kind. We are not human. We are strangers. Yes, Hannah agreed. That is the strange part of our history. The circle of who we protect has always grown larger. First it was just family. Then it was the village. Then it was the nation. Then it was all humans, even those who spoke different languages and had different colors of skin. And now, she gestured at the Vallani in the medical bay. Now the circle includes everyone. Everyone who needs help. Everyone who is in pain. Everyone who calls out in the darkness and hopes someone will answer. Why? Thelia asked. The question felt important. Why do you do this? There is no benefit to you. We cannot repay you. We are not allies. In galactic politics, nothing is given without expecting something in return. Hannah was quiet for a long moment. There is a story we tell our children, she said finally. A very old story. A man was traveling on a road when he was attacked by criminals. They beat him and left him to die. Several people passed by him. Important people. Powerful people. They saw him suffering and walked away. She looked at Thelia. But then a stranger came. Someone from a different land. Someone who had no reason to help. The stranger stopped. He treated the man's wounds. He carried him to safety. He paid for his care. Why? Thelia asked again. Because he saw someone suffering and he could help. That is the whole reason. That is enough. Across the medical bay, the Vallani child from the Crocian ship was looking for Sergeant Cho. The little one had not let go of the Marine's hand since they reached the Indomitable. Now Yoonji had removed her armor and was sitting on the floor, making herself small and unthreatening. She pulled something from her pocket. A small brown square wrapped in silver paper. This is chocolate, she said to the child. It is from our world. It is sweet, like you. The child took the chocolate carefully. It sniffed the strange food, then took a tiny bite. Its eyes went wide. It is good, the child said. What is it made of? The seeds of a plant, Yoonji said. Mixed with sugar and milk. It is one of the best things our world makes. Your world makes good things too. The child sounded surprised. I thought your world only made scary things. Storms and fire and creatures with many teeth. Yoonji laughed. It was a warm sound, not frightening at all. Our world makes many things, she said. Yes, there are storms. But after storms, there are rainbows. Bridges of color across the sky. And yes, there are fires. But around fires, families gather to tell stories and sing songs. And yes, there are creatures with many teeth. But there are also creatures with soft fur who live in our homes and love us. She described dogs and cats. She described horses and dolphins. She described the way humans made music and art and poetry. She described laughter and love and the way parents hold their children close when they are scared. The Vallani child listened with growing wonder. Your world does not sound like a nightmare, the child said finally. It sounds alive. Very, very alive. It is, Yoonji agreed. That is what makes us who we are. We come from a world that is full of life, and that life is always fighting. Fighting to survive. Fighting to grow. Fighting to matter. We carry that fight with us everywhere we go. She touched the child's small hand. But we also carry the other things. The gentleness. The love. The need to protect what is precious. You are precious. All of you are precious. And we will make sure you get home safe. The child leaned against Yoonji's side. The human did not move. She just sat there, warm and solid, keeping the small creature safe. Thalia watched this from across the room. She still did not fully understand these Deathworlders, but she was beginning to think that maybe Just maybe, the galaxy had been wrong about them. Maybe they were exactly what the universe needed. The story spread faster than light. Commander Thalia sent her first report the moment the gentle dawn reached the neutral station. She described everything. The attack, the distress call, the human ship that came out of nowhere, the battle that lasted 4 minutes, the Marines who walked through space and fought through a warship to rescue strangers. She described the kindness. The report traveled through the Galactic Communication Network. It reached Villani space first, where millions of bird-like beings read it with shock and wonder. Then it reached the other species. The peaceful Marathi, the ancient Corellan, the suspicious Dwarf, the proud Synthary. All of them raved about the Deathworlders, who answered a call for help. Most of them did not believe it. It must be propaganda, said a Synthary diplomat. Humans are primitives from a toxic world. They cannot be trusted. The Villani commander is lying, said a dwarf general. She was probably bribed by the humans to make them look good. I have studied humans, said a Corellan scientist. They are violent and unpredictable. This story makes no sense. But then, more reports came. Other ships that had been helped by human vessels. Other species who had received aid when they needed it most. A Marathi colony ship whose engines had failed. A Corellan research station that had been struck by an asteroid. A small dwarf trading vessel that had been lost in hostile space. In each case, humans had come. They had helped. They had asked for nothing in return. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. This was a big thing. The council only gathered for matters of the highest importance. Wars, plagues, the discovery of new, dangerous species. Apparently, humans counted as that last category. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from 100 worlds. They floated in gravity spheres and stood on special platforms and watched through screens from far away. All of them wanted to discuss the same question. What should be done about the humans? They are too dangerous, argued the Synthary representative. His scales flashed with emotion. They destroyed 3 Crocian warships in minutes. Their weapons are primitive, but effective. If they decide to conquer instead of help, who could stop them? They have shown no interest in conquest, replied the Villani representative. She was an elder named Celestria, with white feathers and wise eyes. They came when we called. They saved our people. They gave us chocolate. The council did not know what chocolate was, but they made note of it. We should demand that they give up their weapons, suggested the dwarf general. For the safety of all species, would you give up your weapons? Asked the Marathi representative, a gentle creature with 6 arms and kind eyes. Would any of us? The debate went on for hours. Finally, someone suggested that they ask the humans directly. A transmission was sent to the Indomitable, which was still escorting the Gentle Dawn to safety. Captain Do-Young Kang received the message while eating dinner in his cabin. He was tired. The last few days had been long and difficult. All he wanted was to finish his meal and sleep for 12 hours. Instead, he had to speak to the leaders of 100 worlds. He put on his best uniform and walked to the communications room. His crew followed him. Yuna, Hana, Taiho, Jiwoo, Yoonji, Sunwoo with his arm in a bandage, Myung with medical supplies still on her belt. They stood behind their captain as his image was broadcast across the galaxy. Captain Kang, said the council leader, a tall Corellan with silver skin. The galaxy wants to know your intentions. What do humans want? Why do you help strangers? Kang took a deep breath. He had never been good at speeches. He was a soldier and an explorer, not a politician. We are not conquerors, he said simply. We are not saviors. We are just people. We make mistakes. We fight when we should not, and sometimes we fail to fight when we should. He paused. But when we hear someone crying for help, when we know we can do something, we try. That is not a strategy. That is not a plan for power. That is just who we are. The council was silent. Your species is young, said the Centauri representative. You have only been among the stars for a few decades. How can we trust that you will not change? Kong smiled. It was a tired smile, but also honest. You cannot, he admitted. You cannot trust us completely. We are complicated. We have done terrible things to each other throughout our history. Wars, cruelty, pain. But we have also done beautiful things. We have crossed oceans to save strangers. We have run into burning buildings to rescue children. We have given our lives for people we never met. He looked directly at the screen, as if he could see every being watching. We are both things. The darkness and the light. The violence and the kindness. That is what it means to come from a world that is always trying to kill you. You learn to fight, but you also learn to protect. His voice grew softer. We are the ones who show up. That is what we offer. Nothing more, nothing less. The transmission ended. The council debated for 3 more days. In the end, they could not agree on anything. Some wanted to welcome humans as allies. Some wanted to watch them carefully. Some wanted to keep them far away. But while they argued, something else was happening. Across the galaxy, on 100 different worlds, people were watching the recordings of Captain Kang's speech. They were reading Commander Thelia's reports. They were sharing stories about the strange Deathworlders who fought like demons and healed like angels. And some of them, the ones who were scared or hurt or alone, started to think a new thought. Maybe, if they were ever in trouble, they did not need to call the Galactic Fleet. Maybe there was someone else who would answer. 3 weeks after the rescue of the Gentle Dawn, a new distress signal went out into space. It came from a small colony on the edge of known space. They were under attack by raiders, and the fleet was too far away. But the colony leader had heard the stories. She had seen the recordings. She knew who might come. To any human vessel within range, she broadcast into the darkness. We need help, please. We need help. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Lieutenant Una Park picked up the signal. She looked at Captain Kang. He did not hesitate. Plot a course. The Indomitable turned toward the cry for help. Its engines roared to life. And somewhere across the galaxy, 100 species watched and wondered if maybe, just maybe, the Deathworlders were not so scary after all. Or maybe they were. Maybe that was exactly the point. The monsters were coming. But they were coming to help. And that made all the difference. The stories spread faster than light. Commander Thelia sent her first report the moment the Gentle Dawn reached the neutral station. She described everything. The attack. The distress call. The human ship that came out of nowhere. The battle that lasted 4 minutes. The Marines who walked through space and fought through a warship to rescue strangers. She described the kindness. The report traveled through the Galactic Communication Network. It reached Villani space first, where millions of bird-like beings read it with shock and wonder. Then it reached the other species. The peaceful Marathi, the ancient Corellan, the suspicious Dwarf, the proud Centauri. All of them raved about the Deathworlders, who answered a call for help. Most of them did not believe it. It must be propaganda, said a Centauri diplomat. Humans are primitives from a toxic world. They cannot be trusted. The Villani commander is lying, said a dwarf general. She was probably bribed by the humans to make them look good. I have studied humans, said a Corellan scientist. They are violent and unpredictable. This story makes no sense. But then, more reports came. Other ships that had been helped by human vessels. Other species who had received aid when they needed it most. A Marathi colony ship whose engines had failed. A Corellan research station that had been struck by an asteroid. A small dwarf trading vessel that had been lost in hostile space. In each case, humans had come. They had helped. They had asked for nothing in return. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. This was a big thing. The council only gathered for matters of the highest importance: wars, plagues, the discovery of new, dangerous species. Apparently, humans counted as that last category. The great chamber was filled with representatives from 100 worlds. They floated in gravity spheres and stood on special platforms and watched through screens from far away. All of them wanted to discuss the same question: what should be done about the humans? They are too dangerous, argued the Synthri representative. His scales flashed with emotion. They destroyed 3 Crocian warships in minutes. Their weapons are primitive, but effective. If they decide to conquer instead of help, who could stop them? They have shown no interest in conquest, replied the Villani representative. She was an elder named Celestria, with white feathers and wise eyes. They came when we called. They saved our people. They gave us chocolate. The council did not know what chocolate was, but they made note of it. We should demand that they give up their weapons, suggested the dwarf general. For the safety of all species, would you give up your weapons? Asked the Mirathi representative, a gentle creature with 6 arms and kind eyes. Would any of us? The debate went on for hours. Finally, someone suggested that they ask the humans directly. A transmission was sent to the Indomitable, which was still escorting the Gentle Dawn to safety. Captain Doyun Kang received the message while eating dinner in his cabin. He was tired. The last few days had been long and difficult. All he wanted was to finish his